Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Hard Things Podcast. This is your host, Blaine Burgess. And today, I have for you what I believe to be episode 43. I always do this. I always get started and then forget which episode I'm on. Hold on. Hold, please. I'm just kidding. It's 43. 100% correct. And today, as I promised on the last episode, if anyone listened to that, I am writing a book. And this book is coming out painstakingly slow. This is going to be the rough draft for sure. I think the first time in my life I'm going to actually allow myself a rough draft. Just stream of consciousness, these chapters. And I'm very excited about it. And I'm using this podcast as a way to gather my thoughts. So last week I did a little podcast on what I thought would be the kind of the intro chapter to the book. So this week's going to be chapter 1. And there's a concept that really stuck with me over the last few years as I've gone into my own spiritual journey. And it feels right to start with it because it's kind of where I started my spiritual journey. I was back even before COVID. So we're talking 2017, 18, 19, those 3 years. I struggled a lot with my thoughts, with, how my life had kind of played out to that point. And I was just frustrated. I think a lot of people can resonate with that. You go down a certain path that's not necessarily working out, and you just don't really have that many options. You try to pivot a couple times, it still doesn't really work, and you're just kind of wondering, like, what's the point of it all? Why am I having to go through this? And if you don't have a strong spiritual foundation, I think it's really easy to get lost, and I am very fortunate that I did not. Around that time, like I said, 2017, 18, 19, I started to kind of get in touch with my spirituality through various religions and just people I met, and understanding different ways of looking at the world. And once again, very thankful, because you can get down that path and go down a very bad road. And I feel like with things like physical training, weightlifting, physical disciplines to really sharpen my mind, because as you train the body, it affects the chemistry in your brain. I was able to notice not only, dangerous things in my environment, bad things that were happening, but I was able to notice the good, the beauty in the world too. And the more I went along, the more I pushed myself, the more I found more and more beauty, and have really come to the understanding of the world that I have now. But it was a long drawn out process. It probably even started before 2017. So we're talking at this point, nearly a decade. So the concept that I want to talk about for chapter 1 is, the title of the chapter is going to be Love is the Death of Duty. And this stuck with me for a lot of reasons. When I look back, that phrase is actually pulled directly from Game of Thrones. If you know me, I'm a big movie guy, big TV show guy. Dallas streets are popping off. I got the door open because it's a beautiful night in Dallas. It's about 65 degrees. And but anyways, back to Game of Thrones. So love is the death of duty. It's something that comes up with reference to Jon Snow. I have a tattoo about this. People don't really like the way that the show ended, but I think it's beautiful for the exact reason I'm writing this chapter. And I think in life, if you think about love as the death of duty, It just means that it's a dichotomy. So in terms of like a family, we love people within our family, but we also have to provide for them, care for them, do all these other things that take us away from them. So you have time that you want to spend with your loved ones. Not gonna lie, that is my boiled egg maker, and I just made some soft boiled eggs. That went off, so that's a little bit ADHD of me, but it's happening. I needed to make them and forgot it was on, to be completely honest with you. Anyways, back on the topic. So when it comes to family, we want to spend our time with our loved ones, but we also need to go out in the world, provide for them, care for them, take care of ourselves away from them, and all of this ultimately to come back and benefit them. So love as the death of duty means your duty could be your job, kind of your place in the world, and love kind of gets in the way of that. And balancing it is crucial to a fantastic home life. And sometimes life throws that balance into question or makes it more difficult to balance those things and take care of ourselves or take care of our work when family members are sick or otherwise, or just having a tough go. And when I think about this concept, I think about how long I've wrestled with things like stories like Star Wars. So of course, to bring it all the way back, there's Anakin Skywalker, kind of a Jesus figure. He was born to a virgin mother, born into slavery. And the kind of cosmic force that they talk about in Star Wars supposedly created him in the womb, kind of immaculate conception deal. And this kid was supposed to be the chosen one, bring balance to the Force. Well, that kid becomes Darth Vader, helps kill all the Jedi, which ultimately does bring balance to the Force, which shows you that be careful what you wish for. There's too much light, and it had gotten too weak that the dark kind of took over in a very powerful way. So that's kind of the rough story of Star Wars, but it's a family story too. So Darth Vader, the aforementioned Anakin Skywalker that balances the Force and gets all the Jedi killed, also has children who become Jedi and help him defeat the evil Emperor. And he loses his life in the process, but he kind of redeems himself in a way. And this story is just a classical hero's journey. If you don't know what the hero's journey is, definitely look it up. There's all kinds of books and texts on it. But it's just a story that humans tend to vibe with because you feel a call to action, you take some kind of journey, you change as a person, and you return to where you were at the start, and you realize that, maybe that place is where you were supposed to be, but you had to go on that journey to become who you're going to become. And really, that's just a metaphor for life. And there's going to be good things and bad things that happen. And you got to just keep moving forward, moving towards your end purpose. So that's Star Wars in a nutshell. And I think love is the death of duty. I first heard about it in early seasons of Game of Thrones, where basically what he then, the main character in this scenario, Jon Snow, was talking to an older kind of wise man, so to speak. And he actually turned out to be an older family member of his. You find that out way later in the show, so spoiler alert. And he just talks about Jon Snow's duty at that time was to man this installation, kind of protecting from the wild folk north of the wall, and like hold that and just make sure they didn't invade. and among other worse things that lived beyond that wall. And his love of his brother, who was going to war, made him want to leave the wall, leave his post, leave his duty. I mean, he loved his brother, so he wanted to go help him. And basically the old wise, they called him maesters in the show. He was basically like, hey, love is the death of duty. You need to do your duty, and your brother's going to be fine. He's got all of his people, whatever it may be. What I find is really interesting is he doesn't go to his brother's aid, and then his brother is killed. So I already sense the dichotomy here, kind of the tension between love and duty. And I just love that. It feels very true to me. Because his brother does get killed, and whether he joined his brother or not, he probably would end up just dead with him. He wouldn't have turned the tide of the war by any means. So it saved his life in a way. But then the interesting part is Jon Snow gets murdered. He becomes the commander of this outfit, and then they murder him because they disagree. A certain group of them murder him because they disagree with his decisions. So he gets stabbed to death. And of course, it's a show where people can die and come back to life kind of magically. And so this priestess takes his dead body, brings him back to life. And in doing so they say this Night's Watch group that he was the leader of, the only way to get out of it is by dying. And so in this roundabout way, he comes back to life, and he basically says screw all of you for killing me. By the way, my debt is paid. I'm out of here. And he heads south or north past the wall and goes on all these other adventures. But it's interesting because he just wanted to leave the wall. If he left the wall to go help his brother, he would have died. He stayed at the wall. He died. But this way, he got to come back to life and end up fulfilling his purpose at basically restoring balance to the Seven Kingdoms, putting the right person probably on the throne, which is his younger brother. Or in this case, I think it's actually cousin, based on what you find out in the show. But his cousin gets the throne. He goes back to the wall to man the wall, and basically gives a second lifetime to leading the wall, which I guess that's a lot to unpack. But the main thing I think of, and the reason I got my tattoo, is a reminder, almost a memento mori. At the end of this life, we all pass on. But it's all about the journey. This guy started the show and the books at the wall, this place where he was supposed to serve and protect. And he ends up going on all these, getting killed and going on these crazy adventures. He loses some of his family, but some of them survive. And at the end, he gets sent back to the wall and ultimately kind of saves the kingdom. And he's also, in all this I didn't mention, he's actually the rightful heir as the... so not only did he not just take power and take the throne, he also kind of did the best thing for the power and gave it to his cousin, who has this kind of gift of intuition and sight and remembers all the history of the kingdoms. So all that really nerdy shit I just said is mainly just to say that in either case, you're going to start and end in the same place. We were born and then we're going to die. And that might sound morbid, but what I'm saying is, while we're alive, if you're depressed, if you're anxious, all these things, you're fearful and you're worried about it and it's stopping you from living your life, you came from and are going to the same place no matter what. So it's all about the journey. If it's all about the journey, I'm not saying you should say yes to everything, but make it interesting, make it fun. Do your thing. I think it's healthy to have some fear and hold back from things that feel wrong, kind of in your bones. If you use your intuition, hang back from that. But also, life really is about adventure and spontaneity, and it's a balance of love and duty. It's a balance of stability and spontaneity. It's a balance of all these things. And the happiest people I know, the most fulfilled people I know, were able to strike that balance with grace and ease. So I think that's just really, really important. And I know I glossed over the Star Wars story. I glossed over the Game of Thrones story. If you really want to, you can dig into it. But essentially, it's that hero's journey. And layered in with just heavy kind of modes of death. Just showing the stakes. And like it's coming for us all anyway. So, you can be Darth Vader and do really evil shit, or you can be Jon Snow and save the 7 kingdoms. In either case, life is lived, life ends. So in my mind, why wouldn't you want to save the 7 kingdoms? And like, yeah, you get betrayed. All this awful shit will happen to you, but also you fall in love, even though it was with his aunt. It's a little bit weird. But you fall in love, you have all these great adventures, make all these great friends, and lead people with love. Legitimately, like he was named King in the North, and people beyond the wall ended up following him and being his friends. Like he never really, aside from the guys that killed him, never really knew a stranger. People really respected him outside of that small group that killed him. So when I think about how I want to live my life, that's a guiding principle for me is, how can I be stable in my purpose and my passion? And I know like right now I'm in chiropractic school and that's going to be what I'm doing. That's my stability. But how I get to be a chiropractor, what I do with my free time, who I choose to associate with, the connections I make, the friends we have along the way, the little adventures, the weightlifting meets, the trips, to different cities in Texas, who you watch the Super Bowl with, like this weekend. It's all, that's how you make it spontaneous and kind of add beauty to the stability, which stability can oftentimes be boring. And you got to be able to be flexible, but then always come back to your core tenets and know who you are at your core. And that genuinely is, in my experience, one of the hardest things to do, especially in today's society, because there are so many easy options, so many things that seem great in theory, but ultimately will only lead you down a path toward pain. In the very long run, you can get away with things for a while. I did in my life, kind of taking the easy way out. Maybe take a job that wasn't super aligned with who I am. In the course of doing that job, do some things I'm not so proud of. Different sales tactics, or kind of seeing my fellow employees suffer in different ways and just kind of allowing it to happen in a way that felt like I wasn't living my full truth. Just to secure it's just for my own security. And again, like, you need stability and security, but there's a balance of it. You need some spontaneity. You need to change it up. You see a lot of people in life. I always think of pro athletes. I'll end on this note. Recently here in Dallas, Luka Doncic, who essentially took the Dallas Mavericks to the NBA Finals, because of personal vendettas and opinions of training staff and other things. This is just the outside perception of the media, but basically the people working for the Mavericks didn't like Luka for one reason or another. Maybe they're jealous. Maybe it's just a weird vibe. It's not a good mix of people. Even with all that dysfunction, they got to the NBA Finals. So Luka is a real dog. But they traded him to the Los Angeles Lakers to play with LeBron, and Anthony Davis from the Lakers went to the Mavericks. And honestly, all around, people might say it kind of looks or feels uncomfortable, but in my mind, that's the best case scenario. This Luka guy has a home in Dallas. He loves it here, but he needs to grow. He needs to go to a market like LA and grow and maybe take LA to the playoffs. And Anthony Davis might help the Mavericks, and he might be a better fit personality-wise with them. And maybe they get back to the finals. In my sense, it seems like Luka Doncic is younger, and he's kind of the X factor in this scenario. In terms of like intangibles and like being a winner. And I think time only tells how this goes, but I think overall it's better to shake it up. So you need that stability sometimes, and then sometimes you just gotta go to a different team and try a different formula. And the beautiful thing about living in the United States is that we have enough freedom to where we can afford to try a new team, try a new job, try a new friend group. It's a little scary. You have to put yourself out there, but I think you got to try a couple of different keys in the lock. It's like dating. It's like, if you want to level up, you are the sum of the 5 people around you. That kind of is a little bit cliche, but I've found it to be true. If you want to do good in life, put yourself around people who are doing good so you can magnify your efforts and, be that good that we want to see in the world. So all of that to say that this chapter will be called Love is the Death of Duty, but my argument is that you can balance the two. And your life depends on it. And not just your life, but the quality of your life. You can do a lot of awful, awful things in your life, or a lot of very good things in your life, and we're all still going to the same place. So, in my mind, that is a call to the light. Do good while you're here. It's not always going to work. You might do some bad things. You might hurt some people in the process of what you think is a good thing. But a recent quote that I found that really is just sticking with me a ton is that love is in the trying. Love is the death of duty. Duty is the death of love. But you don't have to go to the extreme. I think the love is in trying to balance those two. So I challenge you as a listener, if you can balance the two. I hope you do. And again, love is in the trying to do so. So don't rest on that, but keep on trying, and someday it's going to click. Until next time, Blaine out.